Hi guys, I'm Conor O'Sullivan. I'm the social media specialist at Nordeus. And just very quickly, I want to go through the background behind Nordeus and how big we are. So Nordeus is a European-based developer. We were founded in 2010. So we're 4 years old, fairly young. We have 4 offices worldwide: Belgrade, Dublin, Skopje, and in San Francisco. I'm from the Dublin office, as you can tell probably by my accent, can't understand. Top 11 is our main product at the moment. So we have 11 million monthly active users with 5 million daily active users. And our MAU to DAU is 40%, which is quite big. And as you can imagine, that's a huge community of gamers that we have and we need to service. So these are the areas I want to look at today. Community management is a bit of a science, but these are the main areas that you can look at yourselves in your own business. So first of all, I'll go through the community, and then we'll go through the roles of a community manager and what you need to look at and be part of. And then we'll have a look at some examples and results of what's kind of going on with different community managers. So first of all, this is my community. This is my family, friends, and coworkers. And I'm linked to these people by similar interests. And within that community, there's sub-communities. So not everyone here knows each other, but they all know me. They're centered around me. And this is an important fact. I have the power to influence all these people's perceptions, whether it be on a product, a brand, a person, place, anything. And as a business, this is a really powerful thing to harness. So if you see an ad that tells you this is the greatest product in the world, or your friend tells you, there's a big difference in how you're going to perceive it between the ad and how your friend tells you. So let's have a look at a business. Originally, if a business was offline, this was the relationship you had. It was linear. So a customer would come in, buy your product, use your game, use your service, and then walk away. But that wasn't the end of the experience. The experience went on to their communities. Now, unfortunately, for an offline business, they weren't able to follow. And what would happen is if somebody had a negative or positive experience, it was one or the other, they'd relay that to their community. So let's say, for example, Nemanja in the red shirt, he came to Nordeus or your business, experienced your game, and a server crashed. So there's a big issue for him. He was in the middle of doing a payment. He's going to be annoyed. He could have had a bad day as well. And he gets online and tells all his friends about his experience. He vents, which is fair enough. We all vent. Now at that point, he's turned around to his community and given a negative perception of your brand. And there's 2 things that happens. One, he has members of the community that are already playing your game. So they'll more than likely come back, but there's still a negative perception thrown out there. The second thing is there's a huge amount of his community that probably haven't played your game that were potential customers. And what's happened is he's blocked them. You have probably more than likely no chance of recruiting them before they've even had an opportunity to experience your game, because they've heard your game is not that great from a close friend, from a close first information. But what if companies could get involved in these conversations, which is what we're doing on social media? If again Nemanja has that same bad experience, we're able to jump in and say something. 2 sides of the story. So Nemanja's had an issue. He's explained that he tried to purchase something in-game, his money's gone out of his account, and also the items aren't in his profile. So we can get on and say, Nemanja, so sorry. This is what we'll do. We can either refund your account, or we can put these items into your game, maybe even give a discount. So the perceptions have changed. His community have first of all seen his negative, but then seen you come in and try and bring him back into the game and do what you can to help him. So that changes things up. So let's have a look now at kind of the areas that you need to look at as a community manager, the roles. So the first one's content creator. We all know that we need to push up content to our community to get them talking. Second one is customer support. Obviously, you're going to get questions coming into your channels. Moderator Mediator, it's an important one. And customer advocate, that's my favorite, and I'll get into that more later on. So content creation, as I said, we need to do it. Almost brands have social media channels and they're posting up all this different content. Problem is, there's a huge amount of businesses that are doing this wrong. So let's say we're all friends, we're all in a community, and all I do is talk about myself. How great a community manager I am, how handsome I am, all that kind of thing. And you probably have friends as well that take those pictures of themselves on the beach with a pina colada and you're sick of them. You wouldn't remove them, but they're friends. But if we were all together and I was a brand, more than likely you won't listen to me anymore. So what you need to do is get involved in what your community is talking about. So if we take top 11, for example, it's football. So that's what we talk about. We talk about football. And I usually do an 80-20% rule. So 80% will all be about football and the industry that we're in. 20% will be about your game. So if we post up Raul and Messi, We talk about them, we engage with them. If we post up about the next Champions League game, how Chelsea are doing, we're involving our community in discussion while putting our brand in line with that community, with what they're thinking about, what they're interested in. And then we'll drop our 20% content in. So it could be promotions that are in-game. It could be a direct link, new features. And what's interesting we found is our highest engaging posts are educational posts, which are part of the 20%. These are our highest engaged posts. And they wouldn't be they wouldn't be high if we just posted them all day. So that's the lesson you need to learn. 80% industry, 20% drop it in, otherwise people won't listen. The next then is customer support. So when you're putting all this content up online, you're going to get people coming back to you and talking to you. Now, I know there's a lot of businesses out here that are very small, they're startups, you might not have a dedicated SM team, you might not have a dedicated support team, but I have a couple of tips. First one is, on the 80-20 rule, when you're talking about industry and have that 80%, more than likely that conversation is going to be around that topic. So you can time yourself for when you're putting up your 20% educational posts or brand posts or product posts to be there to talk back with them. On Facebook and Twitter, again, you can use it from both sides, and on Instagram as well. Facebook, what tends to happen is if you put up content, you haven't got time to be jumping through all the time, the most liked posts will go up to the very top. If that's a question, jump in and answer it. Won't take 5 minutes of your time. And as I said, if you're scheduling it with your educational posts, it's very easy. Twitter is a different beast altogether. You'll constantly tend to get a lot of comments coming through, but if you have it on your phone, if you can jump in, if you can answer a query that's very popular, put a full stop before the @ what happens is you'll end up answering a huge amount of your community's question in one post. And it's about listening. That's all you need to do is just listen, see what the trends are, and answer the top 5 questions, and they'll be happy. For the larger kind of companies, if you do have a customer support team, why not ask your support team and give them details, give them the access to your social media channels. So they can go on, you can tell them, okay, look, we're putting up game-related, product-related posts in the next hour. Can you guys jump in and monitor what's happening on the support side? And it makes a big difference. And all this engagement goes towards pushing your brand to be a leader in its area as well. The next one is Moderator Mediator. This is an important area. If we were, say, in a shop, anywhere in town, and a customer came in and started abusing other customers, you expect security to remove them. A lot of brands are afraid to actually block and ban people from their pages, but this is utmost importance. You have to do it. These guys are spammers, they're trollers, we all have them. And it's not easy to get rid of them. And one of the main reasons is because they're most likely 9 times out of 10 more intelligent than we are. These guys are ridiculously good at what they do. So I implore you to keep banning and getting rid of them and report them. That's the most important thing. Obviously with conversation as well, this is a big deal when it comes to community. So it's really fun when you actually see your brand talking about your product and service. It's really interesting. It's really great to see what comes out of it. If it starts to wind down a bit, I would say throw in your well, not opinions, but throw in maybe a question or two to spark it back up again. What I would say is, as a brand, try not to have an opinion about something. Because let's say, for example, if we put in Cristiano Ronaldo and Messi and we said we think Ronaldo's better, we've just completely shut off half of our community in one comment. The next area, which a lot of companies do not leverage, is customer advocacy. Way back when marketing first started off, it was around finding a niche in the market, finding out what their needs and wants were, and then creating a product based on that to service them. Nowadays, we're creating products, and now we're trying to find a way to create the need. So if you have a lot of customers on your social media channels, on your website, on your forum, saying, we really want this feature, we really want that feature, it's gold dust. And there's a huge amount of people just not listening. It's almost the same as somebody putting out their hand with a wad full of cash, and you ignore them. Now, I know you're going to get hundreds of people asking for different features. But if you sit down and you listen, you could probably pick out your top 5, sit down with your game design team, have a chat, are they feasible, can you monetize them, and implement them into the game. If it doesn't make a huge amount of money, it'll still improve the customer's experience within the game, which again, pumps up your brand. So finally, I want to show some examples of customer management, or sorry, community management. This was Zappos. Zappos are a retail company, and Donna here didn't have a great day. She had ordered something and it was delayed. Now, there's two interesting things you'll spot from this. First of all, it was her first bad experience, and she didn't give Zappos a chance. Jumped onto her SM channel straight away and started talking about it. The next thing you notice is she's lined them up with Dell customer service, which has a bad reputation, unfortunately. So you're aligned with another brand that's already had a very, very bad rep. And Donna again jumped on, wanted to reiterate a point, and is obviously not happy. Zappos came on, said, we're very sorry. Here's a $50 token for you to use next time, or whenever you need it. And Donna's still not happy. She wants to use it on this order. And Zappos listen. And they come back and say, no, look, we'll apply it to this order. No problem. Now, Zappos never replied. Donna would look like she was right. You would think to yourself, okay, Zappos isn't a great place to go. But now that Zappos have actually replied, Donna's starting to look whiny. Your perception changes, purely because Zappos got on and tried to help her out. The next one, this is actually one of our own, on our Nordius channel. Andre got on, and long story short, he thought we were money greedy mafia people. That's all we wanted was money, money, money. And what happened was he lost against two teams that were lesser than him, and he was a paid player. And he believed that because he paid money that he should be winning all of his games, which is unrealistic in football. I mean, Ireland almost beat France, got through the World Cup, only Henry handballed it in. But it's possible. We could have made it. We could win the World Cup one day. We got on and we went back to him and spoke to him. We told him, look, we're very sorry about your experience, but we hope you come back to us. The like there is from Andre, and I checked his registrations on a regular basis over the last couple of weeks, and he's still back on and he's still paying player. So it made a big difference. The next one, Komodo Restaurant. This is a place in New York, and this is one of my favorites because this was a community manager who listened to his community. There's a hashtag on Instagram called Komodo Menu, which was created by customers. So customers were coming in, taking a picture of their food and reviewing it. Komodo went to the trouble of actually printing this onto their menus and now asked people to review using the hashtag Komodo Menu. And what they found was more people were picking up their Instagram to choose their meal than they were the actual menu, which is incredible. And then obviously people, and the big difference was that it wasn't a critic. It wasn't Komodo shouting about their goods. It was their peers. It was people sitting in their restaurant. Now, the big thing about that was people were going to the restaurant because of this. They haven't even been there. They check out the hashtag Komodo Menu, saw a friend was interested. Friend loved this meal, and they went to try it. The last one is one of our own. As I spoke to you about earlier on, if you align yourself with what the community is interested in, it's a powerhouse kind of branding and activity to do. So we had the Champions League final, and what we decided to do was give away in-game bonuses based on what happened in the real match. So for example, you see one goal equals one token. Token's the currency in top 11 to allow you to buy things, to buy players, make substitutions and the likes. And for every time a goal was scored, we give a token on Twitter. Every time there was a substitution, we gave away a rest. Every time there was an injury, we gave away treatment. So you'll notice that we had 221 retweets of this initial post. By the end of the 90 minutes, we had 5,000 new followers in 90 minutes, which is huge. And I hope I've kind of explained how kind of engaging your community this way and listening to your community will enhance your business. You will notice a difference to your bottom line. And in terms of brand manage as well, it'll put you on top. If you have any questions, please feel free. Just in case.
Hi. I don't have a weapon to fight back, so it's not fair. My question is about how closely you work with the marketing team, and how much do you use paid acquisition for your community, or how much do you use your community when you do re-engagement in marketing?
Yeah, well, we're quite close with the marketing team and the support team. We're very lucky that we do have separate teams. A lot of the times it's the social media manager will also be something else. But we work very closely in terms of if the guys are doing promotions, we'll post up on our social media channels and get involved, and we'll try to make it interesting for them as well. Also, our support team works really closely with us. We give them access. If we have any promotions coming up, they'll actually be able to jump on board and get involved. In terms of paid, we do kind of paid advertising when it comes to our product. So if we're pushing, say, if a promotion's happening on that day, so for example, the Champions League, we would have pushed that using paid advertising. And when it comes to industry, we don't use a huge amount of it. I mean, the idea behind this kind of community management side of things is that it should be cheap and cheerful. It shouldn't cost you a huge amount. And it's really worked well for us so far. Hope that answers your question. Yeah.
So I have a question. I've heard very polarizing advice about doing community management, and one of which is, if somebody has a genuine complaint, you get the dirty laundry off public as soon as possible. So if somebody tweeted, I have this real problem, you'd say, let's take it offline, here's my personal email address, and we'll deal with it in the dark so that the rest of the public doesn't read what's sort of going on, because otherwise they may empathize in some way. But then you've given some other advice where there's a really whiny customer who's obviously whining, and you're trying their best to help, and they're hanging themselves because they're whining. Do you have any advice about when it's good to take the support offline and in the secret and to resolve it, and how much to do it in public?
Yeah, I mean, if it starts to get into a big issue and the person just can't be pleased, and you find it very difficult, and or there's more information that needs to be given, or personal information, yeah, take it offline. The interesting thing is, if somebody does complain, a negative complaint turned into a positive is more powerful than a positive complaint just interacted with. So yeah, when it starts to get a bit kind of too much, then kind of say, look, let's get involved, let's go on email and let's talk more about this. But just be there. Don't apologize. No, don't be afraid to apologize, and don't be afraid to engage.
Okay, following on from that, what's the best time? You know, leaving it 12 hours before responding is too long. Responding within 5 minutes sets an expectation. What's the best frequency of sort of cadence between sort of problem and actually getting some kind of response?
Yeah, it's tough because, as I said, we're very lucky to have a dedicated SM team and a dedicated support team that's going to jump on board with us. For people who don't, it's not as easy. But I mean, I got back to Andre 12 hours later, and he was happy enough with the response. And we're happy with that. I think once you get on and you're able to kind of answer their query, and it's not time related, then I think you're good to go. Do what you can when you can. And as I said, if you do see questions that are more relevant and popping up all the time, address them on your channels. Bring them up with people as a post.
So I'm asking you, do you have internal metrics for deciding how well you've done and judging in terms of we resolved a certain number or resolved a certain number in a certain time?
We do at the moment. We've only kind of brought Twitter on to the support team. We've actually set up a separate channel because we had a huge amount of support queries come in. So what we can do in the SM team is we can literally just tag at top 11 help. And they've integrated that into Zendesk. So it turns into a ticket. But as I said, the reason why we went that far is because of the sheer volume. That is going to cost. You know, that means investment. If you're smaller, don't worry about it. Just kind of answer it as you go. And then at the moment, we're now doing a Facebook support with Conversocial, which is new for us because we are, again, as I said, getting high volume. So it's interesting. But, you know, if you've got a huge community, your business is more than likely going to be in line with the size of the people that are in your gaming community. So you will have the budget to jump in, and it's definitely worth it.
More question. I'm going to keep on asking questions. About localized support, do you scale your support based on the number of people in that country in that language, or do you try and sort of do different things?
No, it's if you need help, come to us and we'll give you help. It's not really, we don't really rate it based on where you're from. It's if we can help, we're there to help.
How do you measure your results? I mean, earlier you gave an example when you help a guy and then the guy stayed. Which is a very, let's say, cute way of measuring. But how do you measure the results of a community team?
Yeah, the support team have, as I said, the Zendesk within Twitter. So that's one area where we're able to actually mark them as tickets and see how they're evolved in a rating scheme. And if you don't have that, it's very easy to kind of go on. If you want to check your numbers in terms of your customer, if you've answered your customer, see if he goes back on, if he starts paying again. Usually when you resolve a query like that online, they don't come back and tell you everything's grand. They tend to just ignore you and they move on with it. What you have to look at in terms of community management is how everyone else has perceived that. So if he's resolved online, then that's happy enough. I wouldn't go into a huge amount of details in trying to measure what's happened afterwards. Because what tends to happen is they do come back to us and they do play. But when we're smaller, we're kind of small SM team at the moment with our customer support helping us out. So we try to kind of focus our efforts elsewhere once we've organized or kind of dealt with that customer.
Thanks.
Thank you. What about users that they are probably lying about the problem that they faced? Are you always, I mean, solving the problems positively, or what?
Yeah, well, I mean, you try your best. We've run competitions before where we've kind of asked people to send us, you know, in screenshots of them playing. Let's say beat Mourinho is a feature that you can play Mourinho in our game, and they'd send us in, you know, pictures, Photoshop pictures of 15-0, or 99-0 was one of them that we got. You know, the kind of way. And you can kind of gauge it by your own experience and say, this guy's having me on. So what you tend to do is ignore them, don't engage them, because there are guys out there that will put up this kind of content as a trap and pull you into an online argument, to say. So if you think it's fake, you could, most of the time you can go onto their pages and check them out. If they have like a lot of friends and they're engaged with games and you can see what they're doing, interacting themselves, you can kind of say, okay, this guy's legit. But if not, then ignore them. Don't get into it.
Do you empower your support staff to make their own decisions? And do you say, well, okay, you have a full authority to resolve this problem? Or are there certain guidelines that says up to $50, yes, you can do it, but after that, you have to seek management advice?
No, we empower them. It's like every situation is so different. So if something popped up and our support team had to jump in and ask somebody's permission, it's, you know, you're running in and out of offices, emails, pings, which is, it's not good. And I know I answered Andre in 12 hours, but you know, you want to be able to answer them quickly enough if you can, but it's not a big deal. But no, empower your staff. Let them kind of make the decision. And as they make the decisions, they'll learn and be much better going forward.
Time for one more question?
Guess. It's 3 of us. It's only 3 of us. So there's myself, Daniel O'Kelly, my colleague, and my team lead, Nemanja. I think it's around, I'm not too sure, actually. I'll have to double check that. I can come back to you. I'll be at the Nordius booth, so I'll drop over to you afterwards. I can get that information for you, definitely.
Hi, I was just wondering how often you talk to the developers, if you're in the same team, or how often you speak to them.
What we'll tend to do is, and this is a big one, it comes from the development team. So if we get a lot of kind of features coming in, people asking requests, we'll compile, say, a top 5, and we'll give reasons behind it, and then kind of go to the development team and present it to them, almost like we're pitching. Because we need to push it to customers. Because a lot of developers, I know, when they create something, it's theirs. And it's almost like an artist. It's very hard to kind of say, look, we need to change this, we need to change that. But if you have kind of backing behind it, pros and cons, it's much easier. And that's how we'd get together and sit with them and chat out. It's the best thing to do. But we wouldn't run to them every 5 minutes when somebody comes in. It would be over, let's say, 2-month period, 3-month period, 6-month period. If we see a trend of something that people want, then we'll talk to them and get it in.
Okay, well, questions outside of that, but thank you very much. It was awesome job.
Cheers.